ready to go. We have exciting times and lots of information and good stuff for you guys today. So thank you guys for being here, definitely. Thank you, Rita, for coming back. That's so awesome. Love that. Knowledge is key. That's so amazing. We're going to have a good training today. It's going to be informative. We're going to take action. We're going to help this movement just making it happen out here in California. Thank you guys so much for coming. We're going to go ahead and get started in about a minute. So send all your shout outs in the chat. Thank you guys for spending this Friday with us. It's Friday, people. Yay! Isn't everybody excited? It's Friday. We're about to get this knowledge, this information, share a little wisdom, change the world, all on this nice little Friday. Yes, we are. We're about to make magic happen. So we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you guys so much for taking time out today to join us for Yes on Prop 17, Free the Vote. This is an activist training series that we're doing every other week. So we're so glad and grateful that you guys were able to join with us today. So we have, I'll be introducing Prop 17. We have Brett with Vote Allies. He's our biggest advocate, big guy up there. Brittany Stone Cipher, she's from ACLU of Northern California. Super amazing, super supportive, leading it. Ms. Betty Kay will be actually our spokesperson for today, somebody that's system impacted and definitely is going to affect her, and we'll be able to be blessed to hearing her story today. Ms. Daisy Chavez from Initiate Justice, always making magic happen behind the scenes. Definitely appreciate you. And Ms. Veronica Hernandez, always coming with a smile and bringing knowledge to the table. So thank you guys so much for your time and energy today. So I think the thing what we can talk about is kind of what to expect from this training today. So what we're expecting from this training today is definitely community building. You know, we're here to bring each other together, to inform each other, and then also to give you information and do the intro to our Yes on Prop 17 campaign. Our top line messages today will be our featured topic, reducing recidivism and increasing public safety with Prop 17. And then we have our featured speaker, which is the Queen, Miss Betty McKay, Yes on Prop 17. She's our comms fellow. She's a leader and advocate, a huge inspiration to all of us. So thank you so much. So also too, we'll be discussing ways to support the campaign. Our featured actions is going to be endorse Prop 17 by taking a photo, which would be super dope. See, look at mine up there, always, everywhere I go. We'll be talking about resources, and then we'll do the Q&A to our next steps. So that's kind of like an overdraft of what we'll be doing. So when we're talking about community building, the thing that we want to keep in mind is always creating a safe space, right? And community agreements. And so we always want to focus on person-centered language, which is important. Always keeping in mind that, you know, we don't say inmate or felon or convict, you know, we use people, this person-centered language. So somebody that is formerly incarcerated or system impacted. We make space and take space, AKA step up and step back. You know, some of us are, me personally, I'm like, but we want to give other folks an opportunity to be able to have a voice as well. That's what this is all about, actually. We definitely want to keep in mind one mic, one person speaking at a time. We don't want to be disrespectful and overtalk anybody, definitely, which comes into play with mindful listening as well. being respectful and listening to somebody without passing judgments or having some type of preconceived notion on what it is that they're speaking about, and just being present. Assume best intentions always, and being able to bring that to this space. So we'll be having breakout pods, and with these breakout pods, the questions, you'll have if you could please state your name, your organization, definitely your pronouns, and the city that you're here representing. Also, too, one of the questions is what brought you to this training today, and what are some ways that you are encouraging others to be ready for election day? And that'll be about 5 minutes. And so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to the main man, Brett. Steal the show, sir.
Steal the show is a big mandate. That's like, I'll continue the show. That's definitely what I'll promise. I will continue the show. So I just want to do a brief overview of Prop 17, about what it is, who's behind it, some basic stuff like that. So obviously I think we know it's going to be on the November 3rd ballot. Those ballots are, if anything, actually starting in early October, because everyone's voting by mail. We talk a little bit about that in this training and just throughout this whole campaign, but it's really important to note. So it's closer to a month-long cycle, but November 3rd is at least the last day you can vote on it. And what it does is it restores voting rights to Californians immediately upon release from prison. So you might hear it couched in other terms. We've talked about messaging, but that is the reality. That is the blanket way to describe what's happening. So someone is being released from California State Prison, and upon release, they don't have voting rights. And this would change that. This would change the state constitution to eliminate disenfranchisement for people on parole. So that's kind of how you hear it more colloquially. There was just an endorsement today from the LA Times. I don't want to steal Brittany or anyone's thunder. It's great news, but you'll see them, that's how they describe it. They also talk about its history. It was formerly known as ACA 6, which is Assembly Constitutional Amendment 6, which just means that's the origination of this ballot measure. Rather than, getting signatures, it went to the legislature, it passed both House by 2/3 majority, and then went to the ballot, and that's why we have Prop 17 now. What it does not do, it does not affect voting rights of people in prison or any criminal sentencing laws. That stuff is all separate, or the people in prison are just not impacted by this. I just want to clarify that that's not about jail. So California state prisons, I think it was last training or the training before, we talked about jail voting in reach to that, and that is a different population. So we're talking about specifically the people in California prisons, state prisons, and maybe federal prisons too. Brittany might correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's correct also. And it doesn't affect any other states than California. And the big thing about that is there are 50 states, there are 50 different sets of laws. Some of them are similar, but California does not dictate what happens in Nevada and vice versa. So that's something really important to note. So it's just California. So who is behind it? Intro to this Yes on Prop 17. You see this transformation of Free the Vote to the Yes on 17 campaign. That is just describing basically the evolution of this whole campaign. This campaign is actually 2 years old. So if you're just hearing about it now, we forgive you, we understand, but it's existed for a long time. It started as Free the Vote. It even has a little earlier origins than that. But that was around this campaign to get this bill passed to actually get it onto the ballot. Now that we know it has a number like Proposition 17, we are Yes on 17. And the next slide is some of the organizations who are behind it. You see ACLU, Anti-Recidivism Coalition, Brennan Center for Justice. A lot of these are just organizations that are dedicated to causes like civic engagement, criminal justice reform, voting rights specifically, community building, and then also we have a lot of lawmakers and officials like the California Secretary of State behind it. And that's really important because we have a lot of institutional backing that make a bill like this work. And I think that's it for me before I hand it over to Brittany.
Thanks, Brett. I just wanted to check to see, are we doing the breakout groups still, or?
I have them set, yes. Do we do that now or do we?
I think we're going to do breakout groups at the beginning and then again at the end.
Oh, okay. I think we missed that. Sorry about that. So we have it ready to go. Go back to the Daisy to the questions on the slides, and I can open those rooms now. and I'm going to open them, and it's 5 minutes, but if you all, if anyone wants to ping me, because these are relatively small groups, we don't need to do it for that long. So you can let me know, we can readjust now, but that's how long it's set for. I can close them earlier. I don't know if we all wanted to have some kind of adjustment for that on the fly, but let me know. If not, I'll open them up and we can get started. Cool. I think the others are still coming back. 5 more seconds or so.
Yeah, you got.
Cool. All right. Everyone should be back now. Thank you, Daisy, for getting us back on track. I'll hand it over to Brittany.
All right, thank you so much, Brett. And thank you everyone for joining today again. I'm Brittany Stonecipher from ACLU of Northern California. So I'm going to talk for a little bit about why we are trying to pass Prop 17. Brett introduced us to what Prop 17 is, but why is it important? Next slide, please. So if you've come to any of our previous trainings, you've probably seen this slide before. These are our top line messages. These are the main points that we go to when we're talking to people about Prop 17. And it's the core part of why we think it's important to restore voting rights to people who are coming home from prison in California. So I'll go through all of these, and then I'm going to take a deep dive into that one that's bolded. So first of all, Prop 17 is going to allow 50,000 people who are returning home from prison to reintegrate into society after they have finished their prison term by restoring their right to vote. So again, we are talking about individuals who have finished their prison sentence, they've been released from prison, and they are reintegrating into the community. And this is 50,000 of our family members, friends, neighbors who are currently being denied the right to vote. Prop 17 will also help to combat voter suppression among Black and Brown communities who are over-policed and subject to systematic inequalities in our criminal legal system. So on previous trainings, we've gone into detail about this and talked about the history of felony disenfranchisement and how it's rooted in a legacy of Jim Crow, that after the Civil War, there was a large rush for many states to pass felony disenfranchisement laws, and it was intended to be a proxy way to prevent Black and Brown people in particular from exercising political power. And unfortunately, it continues to have that disproportionate impact today because about 75% of people who are leaving California prisons are people of color. Also, Prop 17 will make our communities safer because voting and civic engagement reduce the likelihood that someone will be rearrested. And I'll get into more detail about this in a moment, and I'll share some studies that show that there's data behind this. We're not just guessing. Also, Prop 17 is going to give Californians who have completed their prison sentence, and again, who are working, raising families, paying taxes, and contributing to our communities in every other way, a say in the policies and representatives that affect their everyday lives. We can't have a democracy that's fair and inclusive if we don't allow people to have a voice in the policies that affect their lives. So we, again, think that democracy works best when all voices are included. And finally, Prop 17 will bring California into line with other progressive states. There are actually 19 states presently that either have no felony disenfranchisement at all or immediately restore voting rights upon someone's release from prison. So even though we like to think of California as a leader on election rights, voting rights, on criminal justice reform, this is something that we're still lagging behind on. So Prop 17 will allow us to catch up and bring us back into our place in expanding rights and protecting people's civil liberty. Next slide, please. All right, so this is probably the most citations that we've ever had on a single slide. But I wanted to show that something that the opposition often says is that, you know, we're just making this up, or that there's no science behind this, but there is. This is something that there are numerous studies to show. So research has consistently shown that there are differences between voters and non-voters in rates of rearrest or reincarceration after their release. So civic engagement helps reentry. It's just science. So I'm going to run through 3 key studies on this. There are many other ones, but I think these are some important ones to highlight. First, There's a study in the La Raza Law Journal from UC Berkeley called The Violence of Voicelessness that compared a large number of states across the United States and looked at rates at which people were reincarcerated, rearrested after their release. And they compared it to how restrictive those states' felony disenfranchisement laws were. And they found that there was a correlation between having more protective voting rights, that is immediately restoring voting rights to people upon their release from prison, and having lower rates of rearrest. So this is a quote from that study, and it says, individuals who are released in states that permanently disenfranchise are roughly 19% more likely to be rearrested than those released in states that restore the franchise post-release. So I really encourage you to check out that study. Another study looked at Florida, where before Amendment 4, which you might know about, still caught up on the courts, unfortunately, but Amendment 4 rolled back some of the felony disenfranchisement that Florida had. But this was before that law passed, when in Florida, people had lifetime felony disenfranchisement for any felony conviction. And there people could apply and go through a process to have their voting rights restored, but it was an individual basis. And their Florida Parole Commission looked at rates of reincarceration and recidivism rates for people who would have their rights restored. And they found that the recidivism rate among those who had their voting rights restored was roughly 1/3 compared to those who remained unable to vote. So just looking at Florida, but that's a pretty dramatic difference. And one more study on this I'll leave you with is that looked at Virginia and showed that in Virginia, restoring voting rights to returning citizens helped people develop the types of pro-democratic attitudes commonly associated with successful post-prison reentry and reduced tendencies to commit crime and lowered rates of recidivism. So that was by a professor at the University of Pittsburgh, and the study is called Restoring Rights, Restoring Trust. So all of this says that there's many studies. There's data from individual states, there's data comparing states, and it shows that people have a more successful time reentering when they're able to be civically engaged. And that's why the American Probation and Parole Association, as well as the Association of Paroling Authorities International, support automatically restoring voting rights upon release. They see the connection there. Next slide, please. So even though there's science behind this, it also makes intuitive sense because voting is an act of community. It's how you show that you care about what's going on in your community and that you want to have a say to make it better and stronger. So when people feel like they are valued members of their community, they are less likely to be reincarcerated. They feel like their voices matter. And this image here is from a former Los Angeles police chief who recognizes that as well. And I wanted to share a quote from the study that I mentioned on the previous slide that says that a disenfranchised citizen is deliberately disconnected from the democratic process, creating both a psychological stigma and rational belief that the system is non-inclusive and non-responsive. It makes sense, right? If you are being isolated, if you're being told that your voice doesn't matter, why would you feel like that system is fair? Why would you feel like you should participate in that system? It's just intuitive. Also, I wanted to share that by contrast, of course, the voting is a pro-social behavior. So if you encourage people to vote, you encourage them to think about their community, and that's something larger than themselves. I also wanted to share that one of our allies in this coalition, Initiate Justice, did a report last year called Democracy Needs Everyone, where they surveyed 1,000 people who were in California prisons or were on parole in California, and they found that 37% of people said that they voted before prison, which is roughly similar to California overall, but 98% said that they would vote now if they could. So something about, I think, going through the system and being told that you are not allowed to be a part of that democratic process really makes people value the voice that they've been deprived of. And we're depriving people of the opportunity to share their insights and help make that system better. And that survey also found that the top issues that people cared about and the reason that they wanted to vote were jobs in the economy, education, healthcare, and public safety. So the same issues that everyone else cares about. So again, this is a little bit of a deep dive into something that we often say, which is that voting and restoring voting rights encourages people to re-enter more successfully and makes our society more safe. And with that, I wanted to pass it off to Miss Betty McKay to share her story. Thank you, Betty. Miss Betty, you're on mute.
I am the mute queen, everyone. So I need the t-shirt. Don't worry about it. I'll get it soon. But I am so glad that all of you are here because Prop 17 is something that's very, very close to my heart. It is essential that we win. Why is it essential that we win, and what does it matter to me? Who am I to even speak on it? My name is Miss Betty. Today, I am the chairperson of a national advisory council who solely tries to get living wage jobs for formerly incarcerated people. I am an outside organizer for Initiate Justice. I'm a communications fellow for Initiate Justice. I do community give back. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm doing everything possible to change my community, my world, and my circumstances. Why is that so important, what I'm telling you about Miss Betty? Because what I'm telling you is that I am formerly incarcerated. I spent 27 years inside, and I have not yet been home 3 years. And these are the things that I have accomplished within my community. Why do I think I need to vote? I'm going to just make this absolutely personal. And then I'm going to tell you about the 50,000 other people just like me who it's personal for also. Number one, why should I vote? I've earned it. Okay. I spent 27 years in prison, and I went before the parole board 9 times before they said, we think you're good enough to go. So if you thought that I was good enough to go and that I had paid my debt to society, you allow me to pay taxes, you allow me to work. So why are I not being able to say what happened or what happens with the taxes? Why shouldn't I be able to say what happens within my community? I am not a whole person in my community and in my world and at large, because I can work, I can vote, I can buy a house, I can do everything but say how that's managed. Number two is I want to be whole in my community. If I'm trying to uplift my community and move forth change for the better in my community, and I'm trying to get others to follow that and to be participatory in their change in the community, does that mean that it all stops at voting? Because I can't vote, so how can I tell someone else to vote? I'm not whole, so how can I tell someone else to act as whole? I don't feel whole in my mission. The other thing is that I never lost my citizenship. I never lost it. My crime wasn't against my country. My citizenship has never been revoked. So why can't I vote? But I'm going to tell you something. Miss Betty needs to vote. And I did not take, I'm going to be transparent with you and tell you that I didn't take voting very seriously before I went to prison, because I saw my parents load up cars. I mean, voting was so serious, and it was like a holiday or something for voting. And they stacked up in cars and they arranged rides and packed lunches and stayed all day in line to vote. And I never saw anything change. So when it came time for me to vote, it was like, it's a waste of time. Nothing's changing. So I'd vote or not vote. It really didn't matter. But what happened was when I went to prison, I saw the power in the vote, because everything that happened to me, the system that bound me, the system that tried to take me out in that cage, was there because of the votes. And so I started then from the inside making voting a big deal. We started mock votings. And when people tell you that we don't want to vote, don't believe it, because let me tell you this. Inside mock votings, that means you just go and you vote and you know it's not going to count. 83% of the population showed up to vote knowing it wasn't going to count. But just to exercise that voting right, they stood in line on their own times after they had to go to work, before they ate, whenever they could, and they voted, knowing it wasn't going to count. So what do you think we're going to do when it does? We're going to use that vote because we understand the power of it now. And so we come to our communities and we give them the knowledge of what that power is. And the power is our voice. And our voice is shown in our vote. And so that is the whole purpose of this voting. And I want to vote. I need to vote. I need to be whole. There is no reason why Miss Betty shouldn't be whole. And I'm gonna need you to help me be whole. Yes, on Prop 17. Now, to wrap this up with a pretty little bow, I have an ask of everyone. And I ask you to ask others. I have just started this thing called 5 Call Friday. Now, what 5 Call Friday is you call, texts do count for our texters. You call 5 people on Friday, not every day of the week, unless you're, really want to help Miss Betty. But call 5 people on Friday and tell them to vote yes on Prop 17. It's that simple. 5 Call Friday. I just need to know how many people gonna do it. We'll go in the chat if you're gonna do it and write 5 Call Friday. And for those of you who are really bad, put 10. Do, but we all need to do our part. But I need to see in that chat 5 on Friday. I'm doing it 5 on Friday. So with that being said, I'm probably over my time. You know, Miss Betty can't talk, but this is very passionate to me, so I could do it all day, but I'm not. 5 on Friday. Love y'all. Thanks. Don't forget to vote yes on 17. Check.
Oh my goodness, Miss Betty, thank you so much. It's always so awesome to have your energy and spirit with us. So thank you so much. And yeah, just, it's 5 Call Friday, call, text 5 friends. We have a sample script that we'll go over later on in the resources section of this presentation. But yeah, thank you so much, Miss Betty, for those powerful words. So I'm gonna go ahead and take us just through some of the ways that you can support Prop 17. So the first thing you can do is, if you have not checked your voter registration status yet, we encourage you to do that today. We will share a link in the chat box where you can check that registration status. For those on the call, it is voterstatus.sos.ca.gov. And we have these slides on our website with this particular information. So for folks who are on the call, you can access that on our website, yeson17.vote. You can also donate to the Yes on 17 campaign. That's something that we've been pushing very strongly because this is a completely 100% grassroots funded campaign. We don't have any special interests that are making donations to the campaign. It's all through people power. We have a goal of fundraising over, I believe, up to 1 million, and we are halfway there. So, anything that you yourself can donate, or if you are not able to donate, then share the link with your, texting, when you're texting folks, calling, and, on your social media, if you have access to that, to amplify the ask for folks to donate. You can also follow us on our social media. We'll drop those handles in the chat box, but we are basically yes on Prop 17 on everything. And you can also access those handles on our website for our friends who are on the phone today. We have two programs that we are currently running for folks who want to be a little bit more invested in supporting the campaign. And that is to become either a Yes on 17 fundraising captain or a social media ambassador. And the fundraising captain is just basically you would create your own fundraiser in support of the Yes on 17 campaign. We have a form on our website that you can access, and it's under become a fundraising captain. And then we would be in contact with you to help you set up your fundraiser if you have an idea of what you want to do to help support the campaign. And you can also become a social media ambassador, and that basically is just you commit to post content for the Yes on 17 campaign on your social media platforms, your email platforms. You sign up through our website. We have a special page for folks who want to learn about what a social media ambassador entails. And then we send you the email with the content and the ask, and you just have to go ahead and share that on your pages. So it's a very easy way for you to support our campaign and spread the word about the donations that we're asking and the message that we're trying to get across. What we're going to highlight in the next slide is having your agency or community groups endorse the Prop 17 campaign. And I'll go over that in a second. Miss Betty went over the ask to call or text 5 friends to join our email list using a sample script. We have that on our website. So if you go on to our website, there is a phone script under the resources tab that you can access and use when you're calling your friends or texting your friends or email them. So that we have provided for you on our website. And lastly, just ask another activist to join you at our next training, which will be our evening session for next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. This is a special training session that's basically a compilation of the past training sessions for folks who haven't been able to attend those. So definitely we ask that you share that out with your network so folks can tune in to learn how they can support the campaign. And so I'm going to go next into this topic about how the importance of endorsing Prop 17. So why is it important to obtain endorsements for the campaign? The endorsements that we obtain from organizations is critical in part of how we can win and secure voting rights for folks in California. Your endorsement from the organization that you're with is added to our campaign website and outreach materials. And this is important because a lot of folks who look to your organization for maybe guidance on, how they should vote on this particular proposition matters, especially if you're that messenger for them. So you would be displayed as one of the many leaders in California who believes that our democracy works best when it's fair and inclusive. That's why we're asking folks to get in contact with organizations that they're part of to endorse our campaign. And once you fill out the form on our site, which we'll share in the chat box as well, there's a form where you can fill it out and you'll receive a separate email that's going to ask you for your logo. That way we can display that on, like I said, our materials and our website. Now, just to go show you how you can go ahead and do that, basically just confirm that your organization is willing to endorse the campaign. Then you would head on over to yeson17.vote to click on the endorsements tab and select endorse today. You would then complete the form on behalf of the organization, and there's an option where it says whether you are endorsing as an individual or an organization. And if you can, include a quote about why your organization supports Prop 17. From there, our team, like I said, will be in contact with you to confirm the endorsement and obtain your logo and any missing information. And just also highlighting that individuals can also endorse the campaign as well. So of course, we want to have organizations, but individuals can easily just go ahead and fill out the form and you add your name to the list of folks who are wanting to make our democracy more fair and inclusive. Now, once you are done doing that, we ask that you take a photo of yourself with the sign that shows your support for the Yes on Prop 17 campaign. So just take a photo of yourself like this lovely model that you are looking at that looks very familiar. And so you can tag our handles Yes on Prop 17. and then we can go ahead and just see the, how you are using your networks to amplify that message. And of course, share the donate link, because that is something that we are really trying to strive for, is getting help from our folks to have this campaign funded by the people and for the people. Now, for some of the resources that folks can access, like I said, on our website, we have the yeson17.vote website. That's where you can access our social media scripts, toolkits, our phone scripts. We also have a variety of graphics that you can access, download to share out, both on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and we also have a Take Action page where it has other ways that you can get involved to support the campaign. So as our next activist training session will be happening this upcoming Wednesday at 7 o'clock. For folks who have any questions for the campaign, you can email us at info@yeson17.vote. Anything related to media, we ask that those inquiries be sent to media@yeson17.vote. And so what we're going to go ahead and do now is, if there are any questions from folks in the audience, we'd be more than happy to answer those questions at this time. And if they are in the chat box, then we can go ahead and address those at this time.
Daisy, I have to call out the fact that we can hear you. I see you talking and your mic is very clearly muted. So we're just like, what's happening? So you're on here twice. It's a miracle. You really are a tech master.
I shared with my breakout group that my mic on my laptop that you're looking at me on is not working. So I have a laptop on my side where my audio is running from. Do folks have any questions for today?
Daisy has skills beyond all of our comprehension levels, I swear.
Yes, she does.
And we have a question from Liz. So Liz is asking, I'm hoping this proposition restores the rights of everyone, regardless of what type of conviction they have. Is that true? Does anybody, I can answer that question, but I don't want to leave it open to anybody on the panel who might want to address that as well.
Sure, I can answer that. So this is Brittany again from ACLU. Yes, Prop 17 will restore voting rights for all people immediately upon their release from prison, regardless of what type of felony conviction they had. And there's a number of reasons for that. Everything that we talked about earlier. So Prop 17 is going to help people re-enter. And from a logical standpoint, why would we want to exclude some people from being able to access that benefit, from being able to vote and feel more connected to their communities? So sometimes we have been asked, especially when we were in the legislature as ACA 6, if we would consider carve-outs for some types of convictions, and we were very insistent on not doing that. Beyond it being practical to allow all people to vote when they're released from prison as a way to help them re-enter, it's just fairness, right? So these are people who are living in our communities, paying taxes, raising families, contributing in many ways, like Miss Betty said earlier, sorry. And it's unfair to carve some convictions out of that and to allow other people to vote. So Prop 17 will affect and restore voting rights for everyone upon their release from prison, regardless of what type of felony conviction they had.
And may I piggyback on what Brittany said? And I think it's important. And I think it's important that we just start having this conversation with it in order to really reimagine what this is. And it just always comes to my mind about everywhere that I go, the first thing and the consistent thing that I hear, no matter where I go in the country, is when I say I'm formerly incarcerated, they're like, oh, I never would have guessed. You don't look like you. What do we supposed to look like? So I think it's important that we change the image of what incarcerated or formerly incarcerated people are and who they are. And if we can change this, maybe we can imagine more of us being more productive as a whole citizen in our communities. I think that the stereotype is just not working for us, and we need to reimagine it. So So I need all y'all to tell them that she didn't have 3 heads and no extra eye in the middle, that she was like, okay. And just help people reimagine who we are. Check.
Thank you, Miss Betty. I just dropped in the chat that the LA Times just endorsed, as I mentioned earlier. Just to go back to what Daisy was saying, is that, you know, certain entities or certain people speak to different audiences, and this has certainly one of the biggest audiences, LA Times. But I will just say that they speak to a crowd that is definitely capable of being persuaded. So we're very grateful for that endorsement. I would encourage people to share it. And just know that there's a lot of support for this. We're very confident, but we are really looking to build a lot more support too.
I also saw that someone asked for the donation site in the chat box. So I just dropped the link to our Act Blue site, which you can also find on the main page of our website, which is yeson17.vote.
Thanks, Brittany. And then somebody also just asked in the chat in terms of polling, how we are doing. So we have been doing some polling, and we're polling fairly well. We're pretty confident at this point that we are going to pass the campaign. But again, this is completely the cost of running the campaign itself is what we're trying to make sure that we can do without having to take funds from special interests. So I'm very confident that it'll pass, but it does require, in this time of COVID, that we are not able to do things that normally would be in place for campaigns. So we're going to be focusing a lot on doing promotion through social digital ads. But we are polling fairly well, so that's good news for us and for our campaign.
Always just got to make sure we all turn out and vote, and then you talk to your friends and make sure they turn out and vote as well. Ballots, vote by mail ballots are going to be automatically mailed out to all registered California voters for this November. They should start being mailed out by the beginning of October. So if you are not registered or you're not sure if you're registered, please go to the Secretary of State's website and just check. Or if you haven't voted in a while, it could be that your registration is inactive. So just going and checking your status real quick will make sure that you will get a vote by mail ballot in the mail if you're eligible to vote. And then you can return your ballot by dropping it off in person at any vote center, mailing it back, or if you're in a county that has drop boxes, dropping it in any drop box.
That's so
Awesome.
awesome. So I don't know if anybody has any more questions. Daisy, you had something?
No. You go ahead and take it away, Nikki.
Okay, I was just gonna say, okay, so we're gonna start wrapping it up. We're gonna do another breakout pod if you guys don't mind, and just kind of talk about what it is that one thing that we learned today, and maybe how you will implement what you learned here today moving forward. So of course, Miss Betty's 5 call friends on Friday, even if they ain't friends, make up a number and call somebody and tell them about it. We don't even care, but just call 5 people today on this Fine Fire Friday. So Brett's gonna send us out into our breakout pods, and then we'll have a couple of minutes. Brett?
Welcome back. Daisy, I hope it wasn't too awkward that you were counted twice and you might not have had your audio for a portion of that. I'm not sure how it worked out for you. I hope it was fixed at some point, is my point. All right.
So we're running down on our time. We definitely want to thank everybody for showing up today. Brittany's going to launch a poll. So if you guys, it'll take, I think it's like 30 seconds to just take the time to just fill this thing out. We would greatly, greatly appreciate your support in that. Also too, if you guys could check on our website on yes on 17.vote. I'm still trying to figure out the whole Google thing, and I've been home 18 months, the nerve of me. But anyway, yes on 17.vote. Definitely get in there. And then you can join us for our next training, which is going to be Wednesday night on September 23rd at 7 p.m. And if you guys could bring a friend, that would be even more amazing for all of the things that you guys are doing right now, just like in the little breakout rooms that I was a part of. Like, thank you guys so much for just hitting the ground running and being a strong advocate and a supporter for Prop 17. You guys are greatly, greatly appreciated. So with that being said, I don't know if anybody else has anything, but I hope you guys have an amazing, amazing weekend. Happy Friday, 5 on Friday, maybe 10 on Saturday, maybe 15 on Sunday. I don't even know, but we can definitely amplify these numbers. And I'll pass it over to Brittany. Said we're going to email everybody the poll. So that's my bad. You guys are going to get an email from us.
That's my bad. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, but I'll email you out the poll. Please fill it out when you get it. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.